Welcome to the We Shine Well podcast, where I have real conversations with thought leaders in wellness to help you live your most vibrant, aligned, and purposeful life. I'm your host, Zoe Kelsey, founder of We Shine Well. Here, we share honest stories, gems of wisdom, and insight to spark clarity and guide your next right step, so you can shine brighter from the inside out. Now let's dive in. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Sanam Shamtobi, licensed clinical psychologist, perinatal mental health specialist, and founder of the Motherhood in Los Angeles. Sanam's work is rooted in helping women, especially mothers, feel normal, heard, and not alone during some of life's most vulnerable transitions, from fertility journeys to pregnancy, postpartum anxiety, and relationship strain. She creates spaces where honesty is welcomed and nothing needs to be sugarcoated. In this conversation, we talk about the emotional realities of becoming a mother, why so many women feel like they're failing when they're doing the best they can with what they have in this season, and how to be supported and support moms in your world. This is a real and inspiring conversation I know everyone will benefit from. Let's dive in. Hi, Sanam. I'm so excited to have you on the We Shine Well podcast today. We were just talking before this. You are just like such a vibrant light, and just I love how real and authentic you are. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you. I hope, we keep shining on together. This is exciting.
We will. So just to dive in, what led you to be here where you are today and start the Motherhood in LA?
Yeah. So I have an almost 3-year-old and an 8-month-old. And I've also been a psychologist for almost 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, when I was going into my trying to conceive stage and family planning and even postpartum, I felt really well resourced. Like knowing all the things, like I already knew I had anxiety. I've dealt with my anxiety in the past. I knew all the resources I needed to have in terms of a lactation consultant. I had somebody doing perinatal chiropractic work on me. Like whatever I needed, I kind of knew everything that was out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had my first baby and I was in the depths of postpartum and it was like I knew nothing. I was tearful, rageful, disconnected from myself, really surprised by how hard it all felt, given that I had wanted to be a mom for so long and that I genuinely loved my baby so profoundly.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't make sense of what was going on for me psychologically. And my husband and I at one point just kind of looked at each other and we were like, we're these privileged, well-resourced people and we're having so much trouble. How is anybody dealing with the postpartum world? How is anybody managing this if they don't have this kind of support, this kind of knowledge?
Mm-hmm.
And so when the fog cleared with my first baby, I immediately knew I had to shift my professional, course into perinatal work.
Mm-hmm.
All I want to talk about with people is this. Like, how do they feel in their body? How do they feel in themselves, in their mind, in their life, in their marriage, in their friendships, in their status as a daughter, all of these things. How was their pregnancy? How was their birth story? All the nuance and the detail that I think women really want to talk about, I really want to listen to, and I want to immerse myself in this world. So when I was pregnant with my daughter, I started to really ramp up efforts to open the Motherhood. And everybody kept telling me to slow down. And I wanted to slow down. And I couldn't. Like I had this giddy up in me that was like, you have to open this practice and you have to start serving this population. And so we signed the lease for our office the day after Maya was born. And my postpartum was spent setting it up. And we opened right after mat leave. And here we are. It's been amazing.
Amazing. So I'm curious, before you had your kids, what was your focus in your practice?
Yeah.
And can you explain to people who aren't aware of what the Motherhood is, what it is?
Yeah. So the Motherhood is really very basically, it's a therapy practice. Like if you're in California, Los Angeles, and you need really good therapy, the Motherhood is a place to come. We're all expert trained. We do weekly trainings to keep on top of the data about how to serve our clientele. Like we really, really care and have a lot of integrity for what we do, but we specialize in maternal mental health, which
Mm-hmm.
means that if somebody comes into this practice and they're anywhere from trying to conceive through having children, we know how to contextualize them in a very unique and specific way that not all therapy does.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a place for women to come and be seen in ways that society doesn't always appreciate the experience of, our clientele. Before I focused on maternal mental health, I was and still am a couples specialist and an
Mm-hmm.
anxiety specialist. So
Mm-hmm.
naturally, a lot of the people that I was treating were going into getting married, having children, and I thought I knew how to help them until,
Mm-hmm.
again, I found myself postpartum and all the nuance that rushed in. And I don't think I was doing bad work, but I think I'm doing much better work now having this perspective. So
Mm-hmm.
we still support couples, individuals. Really, we run the gamut. But at the end of the day, it's a place for people to come and be really seen in this stage of their life.
Mm-hmm. And I know something you've shared that also differentiates you is like you will go to people's homes or virtual, or they can come to you
Yeah.
in person too.
No,
So you're
we
truly
are
meeting them where you are.
one of the things that differentiates us is that we've tried to reduce most of the friction associated with coming to therapy,
Mm-hmm.
especially for postpartum women. So we
Yeah.
do at-home therapy, which from my understanding, I don't think there are many providers who do that. So we'll come to your house and really help you acclimate to early motherhood in that way. We also have virtual for people who just still don't want to leave the house. I know for me, when I think up until 4 or 5 months postpartum, I was so paranoid to put the baby in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just needed to do things virtually. And also, I don't think a lot of people want to bring their baby to therapy. But if you do bring your baby to the office, our office has a changing table. It has rocking chairs. It has snacks. It has a sterilizer for pump parts. Even our therapists are moms and they're nursing. And so we have it set up for them. We've really wanted to reduce the friction. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we try to make it as easy as possible to see us.
Yeah, and I think there's like so much stigma around even like still people going to therapy
Yeah.
too. And like why do you think there's like so much stigma, and do you feel like part of what you do like reduces that for moms? Or do you feel
You
I feel
know,
like there might even be more stigma for moms to go to therapy. Like thinking about even my mom, because I'm not a mom yet.
yeah. You're hitting on something that I'm just learning, and I want to be really honest because I think this is also part of like being a business owner on top of just being a therapist. I really assumed that if if we said, "Hey, we're therapy for moms," that this would be an easy place to come, and I do see that for the women who come to us. But I can't tell you how many consultation calls we have that end with hesitation. And the reason I feel like that's the case is because moms are a hard population to serve. And
Mm,
I think it is partially because of stigma, but the greater piece that I'm really picking up on is how difficult it is for women to make time for themselves in this stage of life, to say, I'm worth the hour and a half it takes to drive, to go, to spend money on myself. And this is a potential long term commitment. It's not, I'm going to go to the chiropractor for a couple weeks and then I'll feel better. You could be in therapy for months, years. We try to get you in and out and really serve your goals because we know people don't have time to waste. But this is a real commitment to yourself. And I think that there is a little bit of a stigma around women prioritizing that when they have an infant.
mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like so many moms that I know that are like my friends, and even thinking of my own mom, it's like the last thing that I do is prioritize myself. Everybody comes before myself. And I think that
Yes.
that's starting to change for like maybe our generation, or maybe I'm being like optimistic to be like I have to fill my cup. But
Yeah.
how do you even like help your clients that come in to like reduce the stigma, or like even reframe that when you do take care of yourself, you're able to show up for other people?
It's really hard, you know? It's really, really hard because we're dealing with, first of all, I think that in general, women are very smart. I think we're very intuitive. I think we're really intelligent. And I think that there's just like a collective wisdom that we're really all becoming a part of. So I don't feel like a lot of it is even educating women that they don't know about the cup, or that, you know, they have a right to the cup. I think most of us kind of conceptually understand that.
Mhm.
It's about how do we anchor that knowledge into their body. That's the hardest
Mhm.
part. It's how do you have it connect to actual action, actual like ritual that women are allowing themselves to build in without, you know, I don't even actually, I take that back. It's not without feeling guilty, but it's maybe while feeling guilty. Like, how can you do these things and feel kind of shitty about it until you get to the point where you realize it's actually not that bad, or that
Mhm.
you do deserve it. You have value. Sometimes it's just that exposure. I also think, you know, we talk a lot about inner child work. I think that that comes really into play here is once
Mhm.
you have a baby or you're pregnant or you're dreaming about a child and you have wishes for their life,
Mhm.
to project a little bit of like when your daughter or your child is in this stage of like, do you want them to feel guilty about loving themselves, caring for themselves? And it's
Mhm.
easier to project that goodwill onto others, and it
Mhm.
connects in a different way. You know, you're your parents' child. And so their dream for you is that you have ease in your life. And how can we help facilitate that?
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, do you feel like in this like population of people who are becoming moms or are moms, like what are these most common like fears or insecurities that come up in them? And how do you work through them?
It's such a good question. And I thought of like 10 different things. There, but in like therapy talk, it really boils down to like these core beliefs. So these
Mhm.
beliefs that, you know, you can have all these different symptomatic thoughts, and it all boils down to very specific things like, I'm not a good enough mom, right? I'm not, uh, or I'm not good enough. I'm not
Mhm.
lovable. I'm going to fail. And if I fail, that means, you know, I'm a bad person. I'm undeserving. So a lot of those fears really get amplified, especially in early motherhood or preparation for early motherhood. Um, do you want me to kind of share what that looked like for me?
Yeah, go for it. I love examples.
So this is really silly, but I actually have a lot of like, I don't know, I have a lot of tenderness for it when I reflect back on it. But I remember when I was 10 or 11 weeks postpartum, I went to my first mommy and me group, and I was acutely tuned into what pants the other moms were wearing. Because in my mind, I had created this narrative of like what a cool mom looks like. And a
Mm,
cool mom wears certain pants, or she has certain sunglasses, or she has a specific diaper bag. And I didn't have those things. And it meant that I didn't belong. And if I didn't belong, my kid wasn't going to belong. And I was setting my kid up to be a loser. And if my kid was a loser, their future was going to be like, this is the thought
mhm.
pattern. And I use that as an
Yeah.
example because it really shows the catastrophic thinking that a lot of us feel in general, and then how it can map onto motherhood. So a lot of us have these very intrusive thoughts. And it all comes back to like, I really love my baby. I really want to belong. I really need a village. I don't want to be left behind because I already feel so
Mhm.
isolated in this experience. I don't want to be isolated in my own community that I'm trying to build in my mommy and me. And so that's how it felt for me. I'm not a good enough mom because I'm not cool enough.
Mm,
And when the fog cleared, and I'm sitting here telling you this now, I have no connection to that thought whatsoever.
mhm.
But we're catching women when these intrusive thoughts feel very real. I'm going to harm my baby in X, Y, or Z way. I'm going to drop them down the stairs. I'm going
Mm,
to hit their head. I'm going to push them into traffic in their stroller. I'm not going to feed them correctly. They're going to die of hunger. because they didn't have that extra ounce. It's like a lot of very big, scary thoughts. And
Mhm.
for me, it happened to be about like, I'm going to position my children to be losers because their mom is a loser. Not
Mm.
int and it's, like, all silly,
Yeah.
but it
Mhm.
feels so heavy. And so in therapy,
Mhm.
we're trying to figure out what is the root cause that gets us to these different thought processes and kind of reverse engineer them. Really hear ourselves, have compassion for those thoughts, and then attack them.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, it makes me think about too, like in all of that like world, it's like how can we think about like what is the truth and what is possible from that place too?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's where therapy is helpful because you have somebody who's pretty objective looking at you and they're not in the fog with you and they're able to poke holes in what you feel like the truth is in that moment, right? And this
Mhm.
is not limited to, maternal mental health. It's all kind of human psychology,
Yeah.
but I think it's very sensitive in this period.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, we all want to like be seen, heard, and like loved. And there are as you're talking, it makes me think about just like how many layers there are in motherhood to that of like moms feeling like maybe I'm taking a backseat of not feeling seen because my child is the center of my life. And it's like I'm entering into this new identity where I'm like making these new mom friends and like how can I fit in with them? What does this relationship like look like with my
Yeah,
husband and like if they're having multiple kids and like
it's wild.
friends and stuff.
And what if you work? God forbid you have to go back to work and figure out
Uh-huh.
who you are as a career person, or you don't want to work anymore. Or you never worked and suddenly you want to figure like it's so complicated. And
Yeah.
there's so many other things I can even insert there that like make it even what about people who like their friendships, they've been the people pleaser in their friendships and now they don't have time to people please. How does their
Uh-huh.
role as a friend change? You
Yeah.
know? How do they maintain these, like, decades-long friendships that they've had? That's really tricky. How do you make time for I don't know, like, I think self-care is a big thing. We talk so much about self-care, which obviously I believe in, but even this feeling like moms are getting self-care wrong. We're not doing it the right way. If we did self-care, it would look like
Mm.
all these different things. And I think that's nonsense. There's so
Uh-huh.
much pressure on everybody to get everything right. And it's just not possible. And a lot of times, the timeline of this awareness isn't like 2 weeks after having a baby. You're still in survival mode. For a lot of women,
Uh-huh.
it's between 4 to 7 months. They start to really get the wave of like what just happened. And
Uh-huh.
that's around the time where people stop checking in on them because
Uh-huh.
now you just have a baby, you know?
Uh-huh.
You don't need check-ins 4 to 7 months later. But
Yeah.
hormonally, that's when a big shift starts to happen where you might experience postpartum depression or anxiety, and you're really doing it alone at that point. I have
Uh-huh.
women call me who are 8 weeks postpartum, and I'll ask like, "Oh, like, are you, newly postpartum?" And they go, "No, I'm 8 weeks." And I'm like, "You had your child yesterday." They don't even conceptualize themselves as
Uh-huh.
postpartum. Um, so yeah, like these questions show up in different forms week by week, month by month, and then you're trying to catch people in that process over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Well, even the psychology of like woman being pregnant, your brain literally shrinks and re-expands. That's just like wild to me.
Yeah. I was reading something recently. I wish I could cite it properly, but that's my own postpartum brain. I can't remember where I read it. That was um saying, we have this concept of like a mother's intuition, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not just some like woo woo, I'm intuitive. It's actually neurobiology. You've been rewired during this process to be hypersensitive and hyper attuned to your child and your surroundings. And it's like a neuroplasticity, a neurobiological shift that has happened inside of you
Mm-hmm.
that makes you super, careful or super aware or super whatever. And so, yeah, your brain is literally changed forever.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's a superpower, but I think it causes a lot of grief. when you don't know how to contextualize yourself correctly anymore.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's even like grief of your identity of like who you were before you were a mom, and like how do you step into that identity
Yeah.
too? You feel like you do a lot of like identity shift work with women?
I think it's almost the number one thing that we do. It's like one of the first places we get to after like our intake and some of like like maybe the harder like intrusive thought anxiety pieces is it usually lands on who am I? Where is she? Where did she go? How do I get back to
Mm-hmm.
her? And it's this moving target now. And I don't think that grief is understood by us until we really go through it because it's a huge loss of, your autonomy. It's a huge loss of your time. It's a huge
Mm-hmm.
loss of freedom. And it's, I can say personally, it's worth it, but it doesn't mean that it's easy. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, how do we, like, for instance, building a business, building the motherhood? I'm literally serving women who I really care about,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel super guilty about it because it means that while recording this podcast, I'm not home with my child. And I
Uh-huh.
have to work on that thought consistently and balance the fact that this is okay, that I've provided a lot of security for my kids to be okay. They're in a loving environment. When I'm with them, I'm present, I'm very connected, but I'm always doing this balance of
Mm-hmm.
having to self talk, having to self soothe, and have compassion for the fact that it's not easy the way it used to be to like
Mm-hmm.
go all in on something anymore.
Yeah.
And then, just to continue that, like you're saying, the identity shift that our husbands don't go through. They go through like
Mm-hmm.
they go through a version of it. I'm not trying to diminish the fact that they also have a major life change, that they watch also their partner go through a major life change, and that's very difficult, but they're not going through the same changes we do. And that identity shift is really epic also. How do you
Mm-hmm.
reconnect in your partnership?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's like so much of what we do is trying to just come back home to ourselves, but
Yeah.
how do we come home to ourselves if we aren't familiar with what this new identity is, like
Yeah.
mind body connection wise too? Like,
Yeah.
how do you support women to come home to that new identity of themselves, and like taking both like talk therapy but like embodying that as well?
You know, I I'm of two minds about that because of course there's a coming home. So I don't want to say that like that's not accessible because I'm sure many of the women listening to this podcast feel like, eventually you return back home. But I think you come back to a very renovated home.
Mhm.
And it's never going to be the home that you left.
Mm.
And I can't stress this enough. I think the grief piece is missed in a lot of the therapy that we do surrounding this period of time because I think it's hard for moms to be grieving when they're wanting to be grateful for their lives. I mean, think about also like maybe a mom who went through IVF and like really fought very hard for her child, and
Yeah.
then she's feeling grief. That's a very confusing place to be, but it's also real.
Mhm.
You didn't know that choosing to have this child meant upheaving everything about your foundation. And even
Mhm.
if you knew it, you didn't know what it would feel like in your body. So I really do feel like in a counterintuitive way, we have to work through the grief of coming home to somewhere that you don't recognize its smell, or the pillows
Mm.
are different and like your favorite stuffed animal is missing, and you just have to
Mhm.
reconfigure your routine in that house and
Mhm.
find a new corner of the home that's cozy because the one that you used to find cozy is covered in like schmutz and toys.
Mhm.
And that changes.
Mhm. How if you for somebody listening who is like newly in this postpartum and feeling this grief, like what is something that you would want to share with them, or as well as somebody in their family, whether that's a partner, a mom, sister,
Yeah.
brother, to support them in that?
I think I'll speak first to the people in her support system. I would really say we have to stop minimizing it and stop trying to be so positive by
Mhm.
highlighting like the beautiful parts of motherhood, because likely that person already knows that their baby is like a miracle and that, they're delicious and they love their baby, blah, blah. It's not about the baby, it's about themselves. So
Mhm.
when we try to support women in this stage of life by centering it around the baby, I think it's a missed target.
Mhm.
So saying, "Oh, you'll miss this time. You'll look back on this time and like it's going to be sweet. Don't worry about it. It's temporary." Like, okay. And in this moment, it's really, really hard. And so sitting with them in how hard it is and maybe even normalizing it. I think, you know, my mom is thankfully good at telling me that things were hard for her. And
Mhm.
it helps me a lot because I think my mom is a great mom. So knowing that a really good mom also had a really hard time
Yeah.
helps me know that, like, in my own intellect and wisdom, like I said, I think we all have, we'll get to that conclusion eventually. We just don't wanna be alone in that isolation and think, I'm a bad mom because of that or there's something going wrong. So as a support system, like, hold the person in that space. If you're a
Mhm.
husband or partner listening, give them a hug. Tell them they're doing a great job, that it is really scary and sad, and also you've got an eye on them, that you're gonna make sure, that they're gonna be okay, and also this is real, like, what they're feeling is real. You don't always have to solve everything, and that
Mhm.
brings me back to, like, the person feeling these feelings, like, you don't have to solve your way out of this just
Mhm.
because it's really uncomfortable. I think that's a lot of what therapy does. Like, we are directive and we wanna give you homework and we wanna give you things to practice so that you don't, like, drown, and you might still have to tread water,
Mhm.
and that doesn't mean you're failing.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And how do you think about too, like, the embodiment piece of like not just knowing these things mentally, but like actually like being reconnected to your body again with all of these shifts that like women's bodies go through as well?
Yeah. So this is where I think therapy is not enough. Like,
Mhm.
I don't think therapy is the end all be all for treatment. I think it's our job as psychologists to know how we can help with that reconnection, and also who in our broader support system can also help facilitate that. So, of
Mhm.
course, we do breath work, we do mindfulness, like there's mindfulness based cognitive behavioral therapy that we can help clients with. We definitely do grounding work, we do breath work, and who are the other professionals in our community who we can resource out to. So, for instance, today even we had a training with an integrative health coach. So it
Mhm.
could even be about like how you feed yourself. That is
Yeah.
a really powerful way to reconnect with your body. I can't come up with a nutrition plan for you, but I can have the knowledge that you eating and nourishing yourself is an act
Mhm.
of love. And if knowing that and encouraging you to like follow that path isn't enough, I know who to refer you to who can get into the nitty-gritty of that. And I
Mhm.
do think that that collaboration also makes a woman feel really loved and cared for, that she's plugged into a village and a system, and that I'm here thinking about, how to resource her properly. That does make somebody feel really like, okay, I can be in surrender a little bit. I don't have to be in charge of figuring all these things out. This person's
Mhm.
going to help me.
Yeah. I love that because you aren't like, I'm gonna solve all of your problems in therapy. You're like, I'm
No,
a piece of the puzzle to support you to do that too. Because
yeah,
even like personally, I had like I had like eating disorder and stuff growing up,
yeah,
and I went to so much therapy, but not until like late, even like a few years ago, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much that I've stored in my body. And
yes,
thinking about moms, like there's so many traumatic births or like even pregnancies of, I'm sure, like anxiety of like how is my baby gonna be healthy, like am I gonna be a good
yeah.
mom, and all of that too.
We even had, like when you're talking about like, like eating struggles, sometimes like dance, is like reconnective, like really, like I would
Mhm.
even say like tribal dance. Like it can like activate parts of your body that you have disconnected from. And I'm not saying it's a
Mhm.
cure, but I'm saying, right, it's like a part of a treatment
Yeah.
is to fall in love with your body in a different way or to reconnect with it, to wake it up even.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be about loving, just like wake it up. Or
Mhm.
for instance, we had a mom recently, she came and she was really anxious and we got her paired up with a lactation consultant who told her her baby was going to be okay. And then she didn't need therapy anymore. Her anxiety went away. She needed someone who was in the capacity of a lactation consultant to tell her that everything was going to be okay. She didn't need us to tell her.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then she was fine. She doesn't need the therapy anymore. And if she ever needs it, she can come back. Like our
Mhm.
job's not to keep people hostage in therapy. We really want you to feel better.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about like people being pregnant and having babies and stuff, but there's also the side of motherhood that's like you have kids in elementary school, middle school, high
Yeah.
school, like college age as well, and those are such identity shifts for kids and just like they're coming to maturity and like as well as shifts for moms as they see that, like how do you work with them in that dynamic too?
It's never ending. Like I think, it is never ending. And I think my mom, again, I'm 37 years old. I think my mom is going through another renaissance of like figuring out who she is as a mom because she's
Yeah.
also a grandma and she's like
Mhm.
watching her children parent. And, like, I think she had like postpartum depression on our behalf, like watching her
Mhm.
children go through this. I just think it's, have you heard of the term matrescence?
No.
So matrescence is this concept that's really showing up right now, and it's like the adolescence. It's like the equivalent of that in motherhood. It's
Mhm.
the coming of like a child into an adolescent. That's
Mm.
a very specific time. It's like puberty.
Yes.
We can like nail
Mhm.
it down. But
Yeah.
the difference with matrescence is it's the becoming of a woman as a mother, and it's the becoming over and over and over and over again. Like there's
Mm.
no period of time. It is now this infinite thing. Then your kids leave and you have empty nest syndrome. You have to figure out who you are without them. You have to reconnect with yourself and your partner after maybe like 20 years of not going, on date nights or prioritizing yourself or knowing
Mhm.
what it looks like to have a lot of time. So we'll even see women in here who are in their 50s and 60s who are like, who am I? And
Mhm.
that is motherhood. That is still a motherhood issue.
Mhm.
And it's the
Yeah.
same work that we're doing with someone who's trying to figure out who they are 6 months postpartum, except we have 20 years of data to mine through instead of like 6 months of data to mine through. You know what I mean?
Do you working with this breadth of women that are moms and like, your experience, what do you reckon? Are there like certain pivotal points where you're like, that is more of an identity shift? Like these are key identity shifts as a mom and also a woman in their life.
I think the less your children start to rely on you, the and the more you get to return to that old home or like that renovated home, I think those are all like very like stop and go moments of having to do this type of self-reflection.
Mhm.
So, for instance, I have clients who their children are like 10, 11. They're
Mhm.
becoming teenagers, they can kind of like fend for themselves in a lot of ways that they couldn't a
Yeah.
few years ago, and they're still reliant. They're still children. They're 10, 11 years old. I'm not talking about like an 18-year-old here,
Yeah.
but they don't rely on you as much. And so like that moment in time is really specific.
Mhm.
How do you pull back? And then your children do become teenagers. They start to drive. They don't rely on you in that way anymore. That can be a moment of major loss. Then they
Mhm.
go to college. All these moments where your self-sacrifice can be less and less, I think can be
Mhm.
hugely confrontational for moms.
Mhm. Yeah. for somebody that is like not like myself, I'm not a mom yet. And
Yeah.
for those people who are listening and like to support like friends that are moms and stuff like that, my mom is always like, you will never know until you are a mom. What
Yeah.
are the things you think people will never know or experience until they are a mom?
I wish I could answer this question better because I have thought about it so much because I think I was a good friend to my mom friends before I had my kids, but I definitely am a better friend to people now that I've had children who are like in
Mhm.
this stage of life. I know a little bit more of how to navigate it. I think it's like I don't know, like I feel like it's almost unfair to say, but like just cut us some slack, you know?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm. Yeah.
I I remember feeling like my friends who had kids were like not flexible enough or like
Mhm.
asking me to go to their house too much because like they didn't want to go to dinner, but they if I went there I could see them and I was like, ugh, like that's so annoying. And now I get it. Like everybody's really being this is really hard. It's as hard as people say it is. Even if you love it, it's really hard. And so I just again, I know it's like I feel bad saying it, but it's like cut mom some slack. Like
Mhm.
this is really tricky to navigate, and we're probably being really hard on ourselves for all the ways we're letting everybody else down anyway.
Mhm.
Check in on us. Don't forget about us, you
Mhm.
know? And the friendship is gonna change,
Yeah.
and it doesn't mean that we suck. It just means that, like, we're trying to keep people alive now, and I'm sorry to say, but the burden of that is kinda heavy, and so we're dealing with that now, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm in a season where all my friends have babies and I'm like, I'm just going to meet you where you are because you're doing the best you can and this is a lot.
Yeah.
Um and even like some of the things like my mom will be like, you'll never understand like why I just like have to stay up until like when I was
Uh,
growing up until you are home from being out or something like that, or like you'll never understand like how much I worry. I'm like, stop worrying about me.
no, it's impossible. It's impossible. I mean, look, because it's not faceless anymore. It's like when you're
Mhm.
imagining something, God forbid, bad happening, you're not imagining it happening to like a blurred face body. You're imagining it happening directly to your child. And so it's a
Mhm.
very personal like fear.
Mhm.
And the truth is the world is scary and we can't pretend like it's impossible.
Mhm.
We certainly don't have to live in that anxiety, but if you let yourself sink into it enough, it's happening now directly to your child in your mind, and our brains a lot of times don't know how to differentiate between like fantasizing and reality. Not to be like crass, but that's why porn is so effective is because our brains
Mhm.
are looking at something that's not happening to us and we're able to take it on and get
Mhm.
aroused, and anxiety is a form of arousal. So if in your
Mhm.
mind you're playing out like anxiety porn, it's gonna arouse you, you're gonna get
Mhm.
scared, and now it's happening to your kid.
Mhm.
So, it's a deeply personal experience that you don't have access to. Maybe if you're an auntie and, like,
Mhm.
you are really connected to your niece or nephew, like, you could start to dip your toe in that pretty heavy, but
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, for somebody who's like deep in that anxiety of just like worrying or like when anxiety comes up, they feel like something's wrong with them. How do you
yeah.
help them reframe that?
I think knowing that this is your brain, so our brains are not our reptilian brain is talked about a lot in these kind of conversations, like your lowest order brain. This is your oldest brain that was developed when you were like a cave person, you know, like
Mhm.
before like you had language and like feelings like that you could express. It's wired to keep you alive. It's wired to have you survive situations. It's not wired to have you thrive and like you know, do great in the world. So that's what fight or flight is about. Um, you might not like what happens when you're in freeze state, but you survived the bad thing by freezing. And that is the
Mhm.
point of your brain. So all these anxious thoughts are part of your oldest brain that's trying to allow you to survive this really scary time in your life. And
Mhm.
you have to almost like embrace, recognize, and invite that millennia old wisdom that's trying to tell you, like, these are ways that you can keep your baby alive and also be in dialogue with it and reassure it that, like, you don't need it to scare the shit out of you every 30 seconds in order for you to, like, get through the day with a living baby or a living
Mhm.
child or something like that. It's okay to be hypervigilant. It's okay to be anxious here and there and be aware, but that significant anxiety, it's an old mechanism that you can give a seat at the table, but it doesn't have to be at the head of it. And I think that's what therapy really helps you navigate.
Mhm.
Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I mean, like being a mom and even just like a woman in general can be like
Yeah.
so isolating at times. How do you create community for yourself and encourage your clients
Yeah.
to with like other moms to or even like their families to feel supported and seen, not just in therapy but outside of it?
Yeah. So, I mean, I will just put a little plug in for the motherhood here. We do therapy, but we also have monthly events and we have groups.
Mhm.
Because not everybody wants to be in individual therapy, but people still want to be in connection with other women. And so we have these events to encourage that. Outside of the motherhood, of course, though, I do I think that this is again, it's a little bit complicated. Sometimes we can be in like I live in LA, my family lives in LA, my
Mhm.
husband's family lives very close by. I am in no way, shape, or form isolated. My friends are all
Mhm.
here. I still feel isolated sometimes.
Mhm.
And I think for me, it has been about like not being so threatened or thrown off by that feeling, like learning how to navigate tough feelings. But
Mhm.
outside of that, I do think there is this proactive part of like if you go to like a mommy and me, like there's so many WhatsApp chats right now
Mhm.
that we can be a part of. And it can be really overwhelming almost. Like there's such an effort to find community that you might feel like I don't even know how to navigate all these avenues. But there's no right or wrong way to do it. For you, it might
Mhm.
look like one friend who you go on walks with and get coffee, and that's your community. For
Yep.
somebody else, it can be like going on girls' nights out once a month with your best friends and like letting yourself like get dolled up and like that fills your cup. It can be
Mhm.
about like telling your friends, I need you to check in on me because I don't feel well and having those texts come in. And for some other people, it really is like you find a mommy and me group and that's your new friend group. And again, there's the grief of like your old friends can't be a daily part of your life the way that these new women are. And that's the evolution of you now.
Mhm. Yeah. And as you're talking too, it's like there's such a piece of trust as well and being like and kind of letting go of perfection in a way to be like there's no right way to
No.
be a mom, there's no right way to have community, whatever way you choose is the right way.
You nailed it on the head, right? You nailed it on the head because perfectionism is an illusion of control. And when we realize that we are not in control of anything, like we are in control of very few things, let me put it that way.
Mhm.
There has to be a surrender and like almost a reconfiguration of what we do with our time and our energy, which is already limited, our bandwidth. And if that looks like different than how you wished or imagined motherhood would look like, you have to give in. You have to
Mhm.
give in that this feels better, slower, that this feels better, messier. It feels better,
Mhm.
quieter or louder than you thought it would. And
Mhm.
that's not the way that Instagram makes you think motherhood is supposed to look like. My messiness looks different than somebody else's messiness. My clean looks different than somebody else's clean.
Mhm.
Nobody has the right way of doing this, but we wanna have control, and I think it goes back to me wanting to have the right pair of pants. I thought if I, like, figured out some part of this puzzle, that everything else would click, and that's just not the way anything works,
Mhm.
but yeah, like, it's about the surrender into, like, whatever works for your family and lets your children borrow effectively from your nervous system and helps you guys co-regulate in a healthy way, that's what you have to be doing for your family.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, even like it's crazy how much somebody's or like a mom's nervous system regulates your child or the entire household too. So it makes me think about just like if there's trust and surrender of being like I'm going to be uncomfortable in embracing this messiness right now, but when I do, that will also like regulate the entire household.
It's true. I really struggle with how messy my life has become. And I my husband very, I think very gently, not in the moment, that was the key. He didn't tell me while I was doing it. He told me later, mentioned that sometimes when I'm hanging out with my son, instead of being present and playing with him, I'm like cleaning up his toys or I'm
Mm,
like organizing his bookshelf. And then I kind of put myself in the perspective of my son and I was like, look, he's only 2. I don't think he's like thinking like, why won't mommy, like, why is mommy organizing? But like, I want him to feel like I'm paying attention to him. And so
mm,
now I've really made this effort of when I'm with him, I'm going to be really, really with him. And then when he's asleep, I'm going to clean. Like I still clean. My nervous system still requires there to be some order in my house. I don't need to be doing that frantically in front of my children. And like that was
mhm,
a value that I really tapped into is I don't want them to feed off of that. And so because I genuinely connected to that, I'm able to regulate in front of them,
mhm,
knowing that I'll take care of myself later in a very
mhm,
effective way that minimizes my guilt. It's like a really nice little ecosystem.
mhm. Yeah. And I think of it as like you are creating these moments in your day of presence, and then there's therapy that people go to as well for like how can I like let it all out, like
No.
where am I going deep, and those like moments are like maintenance. And what do you want people to know that have never like experienced therapy before?
My message to everybody outside of motherhood, outside of everything, is you are not crazy. Like, whatever you are thinking, you're feeling, you're experiencing, you are not crazy. You are not weird. And you are existing in a crazy, weird world. You are trying to make sense of it. Your brain is doing its best to help
Mhm.
you navigate it. And when you call yourself crazy, broken, scary, there's something wrong with me, you're minimizing the load that you have taken on by just like existing in the world, much less
Mhm.
like creating another life that you have to take care of. So it is
Mhm.
really important to me that women come into this practice and never feel judged for 1 second for what they're thinking. As
Mhm.
scary and like messy and complicated, and like, yes, maybe it makes you feel crazy or it makes you feel like, oh my God, what's that thought that I'm having? You are not crazy or weird. There is a reason it's happening. Let's figure it out. Let's psychoeducate. Let's talk about it so that you know you're a normal person navigating potentially abnormal circumstances. The
Mhm.
second you think there's something wrong with you, it just becomes so much more painful.
Mhm. Yeah. And in therapy, it sounds like you create space for people to be truly seen in that and work through it.
Yeah, I want to know what that chatter is in your head, and I want us to figure out ways to turn the volume down.
Mhm. And how do would you say, I mean, I've been to therapy where I feel like I've had like verbal like slaps to be like, what am I even doing in my life? And walked out being like, what am I doing with my life? But also have had times where I'm like, I just feel so much lighter leaving a session. Like, how do you support clients to just come to you like letting go
Yeah.
to be like, okay, this is how you're going to walk into life coming out of this room or Zoom?
Everybody wants something different from their therapist, but I'll just share kind of my philosophy,
Yeah.
which is that the modern therapist needs to be a human being. And
Mm,
that like some people really benefit from like having their therapist be like just a person in the room that reflects back and is just purely a mirror. That doesn't work for me. And I think when you're in a room with somebody who's a human being, who's really there with you and not scared and like lets you be all the things and is like, yeah, totally. You don't shake them. You don't, it just is what it is. And they can even sometimes, you know, it's not about us, but be like, yes, that's a real experience. That's a real thing that happens. I
Mhm.
experienced that in my own way. And you leave being like, okay, I'll figure it out. It's not that scary. Or if it is scary, I'm not doing it by myself. Or if it's scary, it's not going to kill me. Or maybe the thing that I'm the most scared of is the thing that's going to be what saves me. Like
Mhm.
those epiphanies, I think, are what get us through. And
Mhm.
so I just really, I show up in therapy the way that I'm showing up with you, the way that I show up with friends. What I share might be different. Like the details of my life are not taking up space, but who I am is a real person who lives in the real world with you. And we're going
Mhm.
to tackle these real things together.
Yeah. If somebody isn't in California or LA, how do they find a good therapist? I personally had to fire a therapist before
I
too,
know.
because it can be challenging.
I mean, I think that's part of why I'm creating the motherhood is because I also didn't know how to find as a therapist with like a huge network. I didn't know how to find a place that was like really suited to these conversations. So I don't know. I think first of all, call me and I'll do my best to like find that for you. Like if you're in Vermont, I'll like I'll figure it out and I'll help you like find somebody with a similar philosophy. I do think my network is pretty brilliant and we can get there.
Mhm.
So I mean, if somebody calls me and we can't help them, I'm never ending the call with like a see ya. Like we still want to figure out some way to get them resourced. So yeah, just call me anyway and I'll help you.
Mhm. Yeah. So we've talked about a lot of just kind of the journey and the trials of motherhood. What do you enjoy most about being a mom?
I love watching my children develop their personality
Mhm.
and like see what gets them excited. It's so crazy to me. Like out of
Mhm.
nowhere, my son has developed like an obsession with watching like violin and like cello music on YouTube. Like he loves watching orchestras and like pretending to play
Mhm.
like cello, like with his finger. Like it's just like knowing that there's something in his brain that gets lit up by that is so fascinating to me. So like
Mhm.
learning about him is the best part of this. I can't believe that he exists and that like he loves things and he has opinions and he has a personality and I
Mhm.
and like this perfect delicious child also calls me mommy and like finds peace and safety in my arms. It's I don't know, it like makes me want to explode. It's the best thing in the world.
Will you even just like light up when you talk about it
I
too?
I like die for that kid and even my like my 9-month-old, she's so like she listens to the orchestra music and she like dances and I
Oh.
can't understand how she finds like joy in these things. Like she's so new to the world and she's so connected to everything.
Mhm.
And I'm so happy for her. Like I'm just so
Mhm.
happy for these kids that they're getting to grow up and enjoy these things. I get so much pleasure for them.
Yeah.
It's just the best thing in the world.
Mhm. I love that.
Yes.
As we wrap up, what is one reminder you want women walking, or even couples or
Yeah.
family members, friends, to walk away with after listening to this conversation?
If you've ever asked yourself, like, am I the only one who feels this way? Has anybody ever felt this way? Has anybody gone through this? Is this like the worst it's ever been? The answer is no. Like you are you are part of millennia of people who have had to go through these experiences and they've it's been experienced a billion jillion times. Your
Mhm.
thoughts have been thought by other people. Your feelings have been felt by other people. You're never alone in your experiences. And I think it's remembering that there's nothing wrong with you because you find yourself in the feelings. Yeah.
So, where can listeners connect with you, learn more about the motherhood and your offerings?
Yes. So we have a very beautiful website. It's the motherhoodla.com. You can find all of our offerings there. You can schedule a free consultation with me. I take all the phone calls, I'm in all the conversations. So if you want to chat with me directly, please reach out to us there. We also have an Instagram, we have a newsletter. we're figuring out all the different ways to make sure that we're accessible to you. And all of it is the Motherhood LA. So we're looking forward to serving you and talking with you.
Amazing. I'll link everything in the show notes so people can find you, whether they're in California, or connect with you to even maybe help find somewhere else, to find the right therapist for them. Thank you so much for this conversation and sharing your truth and light and realness. I love it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for tuning in to the We Shine Well podcast. If today's conversation lit something up in you, I'd love for you to share it with a friend, leave us a review, and dive deeper each week by subscribing to our Substack in the show notes to interact with guests and discover more resources to expand you. Until next time, keep trusting your right next step and keep shining, my friend.